Admiral Cruthar stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking down at the small blue planet below. His red eyes gleamed with satisfaction as he counted his fleet. 500 of the most powerful warships in the galaxy floated around him like deadly metal sharks. Each ship carried thousands of Draconian warriors, their scales polished and weapons ready. The Admiral had conquered 847 worlds before this one. Every single time, it was the same story. His ships would arrive, the locals would see his mighty fleet, and within days they would surrender. Fear was his greatest weapon, and it had never failed him. His intelligence officer, a thin Draconian with silver scales, approached with a data pad. "Admiral, our scouts have finished studying the planet. The creatures call themselves humans. They are soft, weak beings with no natural armor or claws. Their technology is laughably primitive. They have barely learned to travel between their own planets." Cruthar nodded, his massive jaw clicking with approval. "How long do you estimate before they surrender?" "Sir, based on our previous conquests of similar species, I would say no more than 72 hours. Possibly less if we make a proper show of force." Down. On Earth, in a small apartment in Seoul, Park Min-ho was having the most exciting day of his life. He worked at a boring office job, spent most evenings playing video games, and lived a pretty ordinary life. But today, everything changed when he looked up at the sky. Massive alien spaceships hung in the air like floating cities. They were so big they blocked out parts of the sun. Min-ho grabbed his phone and started recording, his hands shaking with excitement rather than fear. "Oh my God, you guys, this is actually happening," he said to his phone camera. "Real aliens are here, like actually here above Seoul right now." He posted the video to his social media, and within minutes it had hundreds of likes and comments. His phone kept buzzing with notifications. People were sharing his video everywhere. Next door, his neighbor Kim Jisoo was doing something even more amazing. She had set up her laptop on her balcony and was live streaming the whole thing. She was talking to her viewers like she was commenting on a sports game. "Okay, everyone, we've got about 20 of the big ships visible from my apartment," she said, adjusting her camera. "The one on the left looks like it has some kind of massive cannon. Oh wait, something's happening. I think more ships are coming out from behind the clouds." Her viewer count was climbing fast. People from all over the world were watching her stream, asking questions in the chat, and sharing it with their friends. In Busan, Lee Hana was taking a completely different approach. She climbed up to her apartment building's roof, held up a big handmade sign that said "Welcome to Earth" in Korean and English, and took a selfie with the alien fleet in the background. Her smile was huge and genuine. "First day meeting our space. Neighbors," she wrote with the photo. "Hope they like Korean food." She added a bunch of heart emojis and posted it. Within an hour, her post was being shared thousands of times. People were copying her idea, making their own welcome signs in dozens of languages. Someone started a hashtag called Nang Alien Welcome Party, and it spread across the internet like wildfire. Back on the Draconian flagship, Admiral Cruthar was getting very confused reports from his communications team. "Sir," said his communications officer, "we are picking up massive amounts of electronic chatter from the planet's surface. Their primitive internet networks are completely overloaded." "Excellent," the Admiral said, rubbing his scaly hands together. "Fear spreads quickly among weak species. They are probably sharing warnings and preparing to surrender." "Actually, sir," the officer said hesitantly, "it doesn't appear to be fear-based communication. They seem to be celebrating our arrival." Cruthar's expression darkened. "What do you mean, celebrating?" The officer pulled up intercepted human communications on the main screen. Image after image showed humans smiling, waving, holding signs, and taking pictures with the Draconian fleet in the background. Videos of humans cheering and partying filled the display. "Sir, their internet traffic has increased by 400% since our arrival. But instead of panic or military coordination, they appear to be sharing entertainment content about our presence." The Admiral stared at the screen in disbelief. In all his years of conquest, across hundreds of worlds, he had never seen anything like this. Species either cowered in terror or fought desperately against his forces. They didn't throw parties. "This must be some kind of primitive coping mechanism," he muttered. Show them our weapons. That will end their foolish celebration quickly. Enough! But as he gave the order to prepare for a demonstration of draconian firepower, Kruthar felt something he had never experienced before in all his conquests. For the first time, he wasn't sure what would happen next. Admiral Kruthar stood proudly as his communications team prepared to broadcast the surrender demands. This was always his favorite part of any conquest. He had done this speech so many times, he could recite it perfectly. The same words that had brought 847 worlds to their knees would now work on Earth. People of Earth, his voice boomed across every radio, television, and internet connection on the planet. The message was automatically translated into 47 different languages. I am Admiral Kruthar of the Draconian Empire. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will make your suffering last for generations. On his bridge, the Admiral smiled with satisfaction. This was the moment when fear would grip the planet. Soon, the leaders of Earth would contact him, begging for mercy and offering complete surrender. But something very strange started happening instead. His communications officer stared at his screen with confusion. Sir, we're receiving responses, but they're not from any government officials. What do you mean? Kruthar asked. Well, sir, someone just sent us a picture of a cartoon frog with text that says, "Come at me, bro." Another message asks if we deliver pizza to spaceships, and someone named Park Jinwoo wants to know if any of our soldiers are single and looking for love. The Admiral's jaw dropped. What? More messages kept flooding in, thousands of them every minute. Someone had sent a marriage proposal written in broken alien language. Another person was trying to sell the Draconians' car insurance. A group of college students invited the alien fleet to their weekend barbecue party. Meanwhile, world leaders were indeed scrambling to figure out how to respond to the alien threat. Presidents and prime ministers held emergency meetings, generals prepared military responses, and diplomats tried to craft proper first contact protocols. But ordinary people had already decided how they wanted to handle the situation, and they weren't waiting for their governments to figure it out. Yang Do-hyun owned a small convenience store in Tokyo. He had immigrated from Korea 5 years ago and worked 16-hour days to keep his business running. When he heard the alien announcement, he didn't panic. Instead, he saw an opportunity. He grabbed a piece of cardboard and some markers and spent an hour carefully writing a sign in Japanese, English, and Korean. He hung it right in his front window where everyone could see it. Aliens welcome, 10% discount with valid spaceship license. We have snacks, drinks, and phone chargers. Ask about our loyalty program. Within hours, his store was packed with customers who thought the sign was hilarious. People were taking photos with it and sharing them online. Local news stations came to interview him. Yang Do-hyun had never gotten so much free advertising in his life. Business is business, he told the reporters with a big grin. If aliens want to shop here, their money is as good as anyone else's. Admiral Kruthar was getting more frustrated by the hour. The humans weren't responding like any species he had ever encountered. He decided it was time to show them what draconian power really looked like. Prepare the main cannon, he ordered. We'll target that large ice mass at the bottom of their planet. It appears to be uninhabited, so we won't kill anyone, but they'll see what our weapons can do. The massive plasma cannon charged up with a sound like thunder. A beam of pure energy shot down from the Draconian flagship and struck Antarctica. The ice exploded in a spectacular display of light and steam. The blast was visible from space and created a mushroom cloud that could be seen from thousands of miles away. Kruthar waited for the panic to begin. Surely now the humans would understand they were completely outmatched. Instead, something even more bizarre happened. Choi Nari was a university student in Busan studying media production. She had been following the alien arrival all day, refreshing her social media feeds and watching live streams. When she saw the plasma strike hit Antarctica, she knew she had witnessed something amazing. But Nari wasn't content to just watch. She was creative, talented with video editing, and had a great sense of humor. She downloaded footage of the plasma bombardment from news sources, loaded it into her video editing software, and got to work. She carefully synced the explosion to the beat of a popular dubstep song, adding slow-motion effects right as the plasma beam hit the ice. She included some meme text that said, "When aliens try to scare you but just give you the best fireworks show ever." The timing was perfect. The base drop happened right as the ice exploded. She uploaded the video with the title, "Alien Light Show is Better Than New Year's Eve," and went to bed. When she woke up 6 hours later, her phone was dead from constant notifications. Her video had 50 million views and was still climbing. Comments were pouring in from people all over the world saying it was the funniest thing they had ever seen. News stations were asking to interview her. She had gained 2 million followers overnight. "I just thought it looked cool with music," she told her friends, still in shock at how viral her video had gone. Back on the Draconian flagship, Admiral Cruthar stared at his communications officer in complete disbelief. "Sir," the officer said, quietly, "their internet activity has increased by another 200% since our weapons demonstration. They're calling it entertainment." 3 weeks had passed since what the humans cheerfully called Invasion Day, and Admiral Cruthar was having the worst crisis of his military career. His reports to the Draconian High Command were becoming more embarrassing every day. The mighty 12th Conquest Fleet, which had never failed to conquer a world, was stuck in the most confusing situation in galactic history. Captain Mordex had volunteered to lead the ground occupation of Sol, thinking it would be a simple assignment. He had done this dozens of times before on other worlds. Land with overwhelming force, set up military control points, demand surrender from local leaders, and within days the planet would be under Draconian rule. But Sol was nothing like any other world he had conquered. He stood outside the impressive Sol City Hall building in his full battle armor, expecting to meet cowering government officials ready to hand over control of their city. Instead, he found himself face to face with Park So-young, a cheerful civil servant who acted like his arrival was just another day at the office. "Welcome to Sol," she said with a bright smile, bowing politely. "I'm here to help you with the paperwork for your stay." "Paperwork?" Captain Mordex asked, his translator struggling with the concept. "Oh yes, we have quite a few forms you'll need to fill out," Park So-young said, pulling out a thick folder. "First, you'll need permits for alien occupation. Each of your soldiers needs individual visitor registration. Then there are the noise ordinances for your spaceships. We've had several complaints from residents about the humming sound they make at night." Mordex stared at her in complete confusion. "I am here to conquer your city, not fill out forms." "I understand," she nodded seriously, "but conquest still requires proper documentation. We have procedures for everything." "Oh, and have you considered our extended alien visitor insurance? It covers medical emergencies, property damage, and cultural misunderstandings, very popular with tourists." The captain tried to explain that he wasn't a tourist. He was an invading military commander. But Park So-young just handed him more forms and asked if he preferred his documents in Korean or English. 2 hours later, Mordex found himself sitting at a desk filling out paperwork while Park So-young brought him tea and explained Sol's recycling policies. Meanwhile, in New York City, something even stranger was happening. Street vendors had quickly figured out that the Draconian soldiers were curious about human culture and had money to spend. Within days of the invasion, every corner had someone selling alien-themed merchandise. Lee Kyung had been selling hot dogs and pretzels from his cart for 5 years, barely making enough money to pay rent. But when the aliens arrived, he saw an opportunity. He bought a bunch of cheap t-shirts and printed them with slogans like, "I survived the space invasion," "My planet got invaded and all I got was this lousy t-shirt," and "Earthling and proud." He expected to sell them to humans as joke gifts. Instead, his biggest customers turned out to be the Draconian soldiers themselves. "They love this stuff," he told his wife over the phone, still amazed by his good fortune. This big, scary alien just bought 12 shirts to send home to his family. He paid in some kind of space currency that's worth more than gold. The Draconian soldiers found human humor fascinating. They didn't understand why humans joked about their own conquest, but they wanted to be part of it. Soon, alien warriors were walking around New York wearing t-shirts that made fun of their own invasion. But the most disturbing development, from Admiral Cruthar's perspective, was how quickly humans were learning to communicate with his forces. Kim Woojin was a linguistics student at Seoul National University who specialized in learning new languages quickly. When he heard the Draconian broadcasts, his academic brain immediately started analyzing the grammar patterns and sentence structures. Within days, he was picking out common words and phrases. Most humans would have been satisfied with learning enough alien language to say hello and, "Please don't kill me." But Wu Jin was different. He treated the Draconian language like the most interesting puzzle he had ever encountered. He spent sleepless nights listening to alien communications, building vocabulary lists, and figuring out how their grammar worked. He posted his discoveries online, sharing them with other language enthusiasts around the world. Soon, humans everywhere were contributing to a massive collaborative effort to decode Draconian speech. Within 2 weeks, Wu Jin had published the first Draconian Korean dictionary online. It was downloaded over 1 million times in the first day, but he didn't stop there. He started approaching Draconian soldiers on the streets of Seoul, practicing his pronunciation and learning slang terms that weren't in their official broadcasts. The aliens were amazed that this young human could speak their language better than some species they had been allied with for centuries. Soon, Draconian soldiers were lining up to take Korean lessons from Wu Jin in exchange for helping him perfect his alien pronunciation. "Your language is beautiful," he told Sergeant Colvex during one of their informal lessons. "But Korean has some sounds that might be hard for you. Try saying "Annyeonghaseyo," it means hello." The 7-foot-tall armored warrior carefully repeated the Korean greeting, his deep voice making it sound like a battle cry. When he got it right, Wu Jin clapped excitedly, and other humans nearby cheered and applauded. Admiral Kruthar watched these reports with growing horror. His invasion force wasn't conquering Earth. They were becoming tourists, customers, and students. His soldiers were learning human languages, buying human souvenirs, and filling out human paperwork. "Sir," his aide reported nervously, "Captain Mordek says he's successfully established control of Seoul City Hall." "Excellent," the Admiral said with relief. "However," the aide continued, "he now has a Seoul resident registration card, a library membership, and has signed up for a Korean cooking class that starts next Tuesday." Admiral Kruthar sat in his command chair, staring at a pile of reports. That made no sense. In his 300 years of military service, he had never encountered anything like this. Every single day brought new updates that made him question everything he thought he knew about conquest and warfare. His aide, Lieutenant Vexra, approached with the daily status report. The Admiral had been dreading these meetings for weeks. "Now, sir, I have the latest updates from our ground forces," she said hesitantly. "Tell me," Kruthar said, rubbing his scaly forehead where a headache was forming. "Well, sir, Squad Leader Morthak has moved into an apartment in downtown Seoul. He says the rent is reasonable, and his human roommate Kim Hyun-woo is teaching him to play video games." The Admiral's eye twitched. "Continue." "Commander Velkosh has working part-time at a coffee shop in Tokyo. He says he enjoys the customer service experience, and the humans tip well. Also, Sergeant Gulmar has started a YouTube channel where he reviews human food. It has over 2 million subscribers." Kruthar stood up and began pacing. "What about our military objectives?" "Sir, that's where it gets complicated. Half of our soldiers are technically still following orders to integrate with human society for intelligence gathering. But the other half have submitted formal requests to extend their missions indefinitely. Some are calling it cultural exchange." The worst part wasn't that his soldiers were abandoning their posts. The worst part was that they seemed genuinely happy for the first time in their military careers. Take Sergeant Cormin, for example. He had been one of Kruthar's most reliable soldiers, tough, disciplined, and completely focused on military objectives. 3 weeks ago, he would have followed any order without question. Now Cormin was living in a small apartment in Busan with his new wife, Song Minji, whom he had met when she helped him navigate the subway system. The 7-foot-tall alien warrior spent his days learning to cook Korean barbecue and practicing pronunciation of Korean endearments. "Honey, did you remember to pick up groceries?" Minji would ask him in Korean, and Cormin would respond with careful, heavily accented words that made her laugh with delight. The couple had announced they were expecting a child, something that should have been biologically impossible but somehow wasn't. Cormin sent Admiral Kruthar regular updates that read more like love letters than military reports. "The humans have taught me about something called happiness," he wrote. I never knew life could be this good. Minji is teaching me to make kimchi, and I am teaching her about draconian poetry. We are building something beautiful together. But the development that truly terrified Admiral Kruthar was what had happened to his chief engineer, Commander Zilthex. This alien had designed some of the most advanced military technology in the galaxy. His technical expertise was worth more than entire planets. A human tech startup in Silicon Valley had somehow convinced Zulthex to quit the military and join their company. They were paying him 3 times his military salary, gave him unlimited creative freedom, and apparently had something called Casual Fridays where he didn't have to wear his formal uniform. Sir, Zulthex had explained in his resignation letter, they have excellent health benefits, free meals, and they actually listen to my ideas instead of just giving me orders. Also, they have a gaming room with something called a ping-pong table. I have discovered I am quite good at ping-pong. The Admiral had tried to order Zulthex back to military service, but the engineer had politely declined and sent a gift basket of human snacks as an apology. However, the most disturbing report came from Earth's surface, where something impossible was happening. Humans were not just learning to use draconian technology, they were improving it. Li Donghuan was a car mechanic in Daegu who had never studied advanced physics or engineering. He fixed broken engines, changed oil, and helped people with car troubles. But when he got his hands on a damaged draconian FTL drive that had fallen from a damaged ship, his natural curiosity took over. Instead of being intimidated by technology, centuries ahead of human development, Donghuan treated it like any other broken machine. He took it apart piece by piece, figured out how each component worked, and started experimenting. The problem with alien engineering, he explained to a crowd of fascinated humans and draconians, is that it's too complicated. They overthink everything. Look at this power coupling. They used 17 different components to do what you could do with 3. Using spare parts from his garage, some copper wire, and what he called creative thinking, Donghuan rebuilt the FTL drive. Not only did it work, but it was 30% more efficient than the original Draconian design. When word of this reached the Draconian fleet, half the engineering corps requested permission to visit Donghuan's garage to learn his creative thinking. Methods. Admiral Kruthar received even more disturbing news from across the galaxy. Reports were coming in from the Draconian homeworld and other conquered planets. Citizens were demanding to know why they couldn't have the same freedoms they had heard about on Earth. Why can't we choose our own jobs like the humans do? Protesters asked on the Draconian capital world. Why can't we marry who we want like that soldier Cormin did? Young Draconians demanded. Why don't our leaders ask for our opinions like human governments do? Became a common question that Draconian officials couldn't answer. The rigid military hierarchy that had held the Draconian Empire together for 1,000 years was starting to crack. And it was all because of one small blue planet, where conquerors became neighbors and soldiers became friends. Lieutenant Vexra cleared her throat nervously. Sir, there's one more thing. The High Command wants a status report on our conquest progress. Admiral Kruthar looked out at Earth, where his soldiers were learning to be happy, his engineers were playing ping-pong, and his invasion had turned into the galaxy's most successful cultural exchange program. Tell them, he said quietly, that the humans have found a way to conquer us without firing a single shot. The sleek silver ships of the Galactic Council investigation team entered Earth's solar system exactly 6 months after the Draconian 12th Fleet had last been heard from. Investigator Prime Zelnath had seen many strange things in his long career, but the complete disappearance of an entire conquest fleet was unprecedented in galactic history. Begin deep space scans, he ordered his team. Look for any trace of Draconian technology, debris fields, or energy signatures. His science officer, a methodical being from the Centauri system, worked frantically at her console. Sir, I'm detecting no military vessels in orbit around the planet. No weapons platforms. No shield generators. No occupation infrastructure of any kind. Zelnath felt a chill run through his body. The Draconian 12th Fleet consisted of 500 massive warships and 50 million soldiers. Military forces that size didn't just disappear without leaving some kind of trace. What about the planet's surface? He asked. Any signs of battle damage? Conquered. Cities or military installations? That's the strange part, sir. The planet appears to be completely normal. Cities are functioning. Populations are going about their daily business, and there are no signs of warfare or occupation anywhere. The investigator made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of his life. Prepare landing shuttles. We're going down to investigate personally. The team chose Sol as their landing site, since intelligence reports had indicated it was one of the primary targets of the Draconian invasion. As their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, they expected to find a city under alien control, with human slaves and Draconian military governors. Instead, they found something far more disturbing. The first thing investigator Zelnath noticed was a small restaurant in the Gangnam district with an unusual sign. Kruthar's Galactic Fusion Kitchen, where two worlds meet in perfect harmony. The name Kruthar seemed familiar, but he couldn't quite place it. Inside the restaurant, they found their answer. Behind the counter, wearing a cheerful apron that said "Kiss the Cook" in both Korean and Draconian, stood former Admiral Kruthar. The once feared military commander was carefully plating what appeared to be a fusion dish, combining traditional Korean barbecue with Draconian spices. "Welcome to my restaurant," Kruthar said warmly to the shocked investigators. "Would you like to try today's special? It's bulgogi with Andromedan sauce, served with kimchi that my partner Kang Yuna taught me to make." Kang Yuna, a smiling human woman, emerged from the kitchen carrying a tray of side dishes. "Oh, more visitors from space," she said cheerfully. "Kruthar, honey, we should prepare the large table for our new friends." Investigator Zelnath stared in horror. "Admiral Kruthar, what happened to your fleet? Where are your soldiers? What is the status of your conquest mission?" Kruthar set down his cooking utensils and looked thoughtful. "Conquest? Oh, that old thing. We tried that for about 3 weeks, but it didn't work out very well. The humans had better ideas." "Better ideas?" Zelnath gasped. "Well, yes," Kruthar explained patiently. "They showed us that you don't need to conquer people to live with them. You can just be friends instead. It's much more pleasant and the food is better." As the investigation team explored Sol over the following days, they discovered that former Draconian soldiers were everywhere, but not as occupying forces. They worked as teachers in schools, engineers in tech companies, artists creating beautiful sculptures, and shop owners running successful businesses. Park Jinsu, who ran a language exchange program, introduced them to former Commander Velkosh, who now taught alien children how to speak Korean while learning about human culture himself. "The best part," Velkosh explained, "is that no one gives me orders anymore. I can choose what I want to do each day. Yesterday I helped a human grandmother fix her computer. Today I'm teaching kindergarten students about the stars. Tomorrow I might try painting." Kim Mirei, a university student, showed them around a community center where humans and former Draconian soldiers worked together on art projects, played sports and shared meals. "They're not scary at all once you get to know them," she said. "Sure, they look different and they're really tall, but they laugh at the same jokes we do, they love trying new foods, and they give great hugs." But the most disturbing discovery came when the investigators tried to locate the missing Draconian spaceships. They found them in shipyards around the world, being converted into peaceful vessels by joint human-Draconian engineering teams. Lee Sang-woo, a human engineer, proudly showed them around one converted warship. "We're turning this into a passenger liner for interplanetary tourism. The former weapons bays are now comfortable passenger cabins, and the command bridge has been redesigned as an observation deck with amazing views." Working alongside him was former Draconian weapons officer Mordak, who was enthusiastically explaining how they had repurposed the ship's power systems. "Humans are incredibly creative," Mordak said. "They look at a weapons platform and see a cruise ship. They look at a warrior and see a friend. It's revolutionary thinking." However, the investigators soon learned that not all the Draconians had stayed on Earth. About half of the original fleet had returned to Draconian space after their time with humans, but they hadn't returned as conquered soldiers reporting failure. They had returned as revolutionaries. Choi Na-young, a human news reporter, showed the investigators footage of protests happening on Draconian worlds throughout the galaxy. Former soldiers were leading demonstrations, demanding the same freedoms they had experienced on Earth. "Why can't we choose our own careers?" the protesters chanted. "Why can't we elect our leaders like humans do? Why can't different species live together in peace?" The rigid military hierarchy that had controlled the Draconian Empire for centuries was crumbling as citizens demanded human-style democracy and freedom. Investigator Zelnath filed his final report with shaking hands. "The Draconian 12th Fleet has not been destroyed," he wrote. "It has been transformed by something far more dangerous than any weapon we have ever encountered. The humans possess the ability to turn enemies into friends, conquerors into neighbors, and warriors into artists. They have not defeated the Draconian Empire through force. They have defeated it through kindness, acceptance, and the revolutionary idea that different beings can simply choose to be happy together." He recommended that Earth be classified as a Class X threat, not because humans were dangerous, but because their way of life was so appealing that it could spread throughout the galaxy and change everything. As his ship left Earth's orbit, Zelnath looked back at the blue planet, where former Admiral Kruthar was probably serving dinner to customers who had once been his enemies, where alien warriors had learned to laugh and love, and where the most powerful military force in the galaxy had simply chosen to stay home. The whisper spread across the stars. There is a world where war becomes friendship, where conquerors become family. Stay away from the blue planet, or risk discovering what happiness really means.